We arrived in Wicklow to find that most boats had been put away for the winter, and we had the entire outer harbour to ourselves. Wicklow Sailing Club were kind enough to allow us to pick up a mooring buoy in their otherwise deserted mooring field, and there we sat, perfectly sheltered behind the protected stone walls. Wicklow's a bit of a surprise to me, I have to be honest. I've sailed up here before, and so have you. We've never come in this way. I did spot that there was a harbour on Navionics when we were looking for somewhere to shelter on the way south. But I have to say, people say, well, that's a nice place, or that's a nice place. In our experience, I think there's something nice everywhere. And this is absolutely no exception. Gorgeous little town, lovely old fort here, whatever it was, and a treat, and friendly people, and a nice pint of Guinness, and a lovely restaurant, and a safe mooring for Altor, and a happy girlfriend. Oh my God, how does it get any better than this? Welcome back to Adventure Now. It's become very obvious to us that we really have eked out as much as we possibly can from this season. With boats being packed up all around us, we are still on the move, still waiting for weather opportunities to get south, but enjoying ourselves along the way. And now we find ourselves in the lovely Irish town of Wicklow, which is as replete with charm as you can expect to find in many a town across the length and breadth of the fine Emerald Isle. But I'm not about to get tangled up in this fairy tale world of everything's wonderful and everything is fluffy. There is serious business to be done. I must take full advantage of the Irish hospitality, and as they say, when in Ireland, do as the Irish do.
Mr. Thompson, why do you have 2 pints?
To be sure.
We don't want much, our needs are small. Health, happiness, but really that's all. Maybe single malt, just a nip. A barrel of martini for Asher to sip. A whisper of wind to fill the sails. A nice big fish not caught by the tail. Now it seems we do ask for more, but life's for the living, to be sure.
We are leaving Wicklow Town, heading for Arklow. Great stop over here, a bit of a rolly mooring, but a very nice town, very friendly, very pretty, but it's time to head south again.
We are now watching the weather like a hawk. Sailing or motoring, it doesn't matter. If we can get south, we will take it. Having left Wicklow, bound for Arklow, we then decided that we'd push on to Wexford, and then we changed our mind again. The breeze looks okay-ish, so we are going to make a jump across to Milford Haven. It's 60 odd miles from here, so suddenly the gap feels quite small, and why not? At this sort of speed we should be going into Milford Haven at first light. There might be some motoring required because the wind is due to die off, but we've got the tide with us, we've got the wind in our favour, so it was a sweet little time in Ireland, but it's time to say goodbye, so farewell, and Wales bound. As you will see in this episode, wind to blow us south is in particularly short supply, so soon the sails came down and Perkins took over. We motored into the night, enjoying calm conditions on our way over to the Welsh coast. All the while we were kept warm and cosy by the engine heating wafting up from down below. Before long we had turned the corner and entered Milford Haven. I'd just like to get the anchor out of the roller, ready to drop. On a dark night like this, it always feels a little sketchy approaching a new anchorage, but the reality is that there is a big wide open space here, so it wasn't long before we arrived at the waypoint I'd marked out earlier and dropped the anchor. Just at the blue marker, which means 30 metres. We'll put the snubber on, which is another 10. And there we are, anchored, back in Wales. Quite confused what to do now, it's 5 in the morning. Do we have a whiskey, go to bed, have breakfast? I was just wondering,
Yeah?
at 5 o'clock in the morning, is it time for whiskey, breakfast or bed?
Welcome to Wales.
Welcome you too.
Cheers.
After a wee dram, we watched a beautiful sunrise on another day in another country. This transient lifestyle of ours makes it so difficult to know where you are and what day it is. But after a lay-in, breakfast, some recalibration and a chilled out day at anchor, we decided to head further up the Cleddau River.
We have just sailed off the anchorage at Dale and are heading up the river to pick up a buoy at Naylands.
Our sail was a little bit short-lived, but we had, 4 miles from the anchorage, and then we got sheltered by the land on the south side of the river. So we are trying to get to the mooring before dark, so we've dropped the sails, got Perkins on, and we're on the way past the commercial part of Milford Haven, and then under the bridge where it's like going into a different world. On the way to the different world, you must first pass all the oil and gas terminals. Some people say that this is all a bit of an eyesore, but I don't agree. Somehow, all of this commercial necessity is nestled on the Pembrokeshire coastline, and yet the place is still beautiful, and we may be immersed in a bitter battle against fossil fuels, but if we think we can live without them anytime soon, then we are kidding ourselves. And just like that, we enter the new world that exists beyond the bridge. These lovely upper reaches are absolutely gorgeous. Just made this in the fading light. We found the buoy that they told us to pick up when we spoke to them on the telephone. Lots of tide running here, so we are punching into it, which actually makes it pretty easy to maintain steerage and pick up the buoy, which I bravely say now. Let's see how it unfolds. Well, if it goes wrong, I'll just blame Asher. Okay, you want a hand?
Yes, please.
We are on. We're just running forward a bit, but we will allow the tide to take us back. Oh, hello, seaweed. Careful, Asher might eat you.
That's a fair amount for salad.
Right, there we are. After the light show and a rainy night, the weather cleared. The next day we went ashore to meet our friends Alan and Lynn, who had very kindly offered to take us shopping and thus relieve us from what would have been a very long hike with backpacks. We do love an old school boatyard, and Rudder's boatyard is definitely that. Old, basic, but good showers, lots of peace and quiet. After the dreaded shopping, we then went to the beautiful village of Solver with Alan, Lynn and their dog Cody. Concentrate, Cody. Solver is a perfectly protected natural harbour on the north side of St Bride's Bay. The harbour dries completely at low tide, which means it's not suitable for Altor, and the anchorage outside is not protected in the southerly wind direction that we've currently got. So on this occasion, we happily visited by road instead. A short walk down from the headland will find you in the cute little town, which at this time of the year, other than Asher and I, is mainly devoid of tourists. Thank you Lynn, Alan and Cody for a lovely day out. It was great to spend some time with you. It's an early morning departure from Rudder's boatyard. We've had a week on this mooring buoy. It's a lovely place, but a little expensive for a mooring buoy in our opinion. So we are going to anchor up in a place called Crow's Pool, I believe it's called. Apparently it should be quite sheltered because we've got a pretty big couple of gales going to roll on through. Sailing plans are always subject to change, and when we cruised past Pembroke we realised how sheltered it was. So we decided to go in, pick up one of their mooring buoys and shelter from the gale there. And also do some fishing. Off you go, sunshine. Sorry to disturb your lunch.
What did you catch, Mr. Thompson?
Spotted dogfish. Nice, eh?
Yeah.
Broken the virginity of that rod. Well, that's a bit brutal. We've got a big gale rolling through Milford Haven today. It's wind over tide, so it's a bit rough on the ship, but it's pretty exhilarating, if not a bit noisy. And this is how it was for us, for days upon days. There were breaks between the gales here and there, and when they came along, we would launch the dinghy and go ashore to stretch our legs. Sheltering in Milford Haven wasn't bad at all. The other things that make it more than okay to be in Milford Haven is that we're in this lovely protected little area outside the Pembroke Haven Yacht Club, and over the other side we've met some lovely people, Alan and Lynn, and also Julia and David, and they've both been kind enough to invite us into their lovely houses that overlook this beautiful river. And the sailing club itself have been very, very welcoming, and they have given us a key so we can get in and use the shower, and we also have the luxury of this lovely slipway right here so we can get in and out of the dinghy without any trouble.
We have been in Milford Haven for 3 weeks to the day, and we just spotted some forecast with northerlies, although it's a little feisty. We are gonna move now close to the exit from Milford Haven, and hopefully we're gonna sail south tonight, so fingers crossed for that.
See you, boy. Ready for anything?
Well, yeah, ready.
The inclement weather that we had been experiencing was enough to make us nervous, but someone was keeping the spirits up. You are a wally. But so do I. Roughy, tufty sailors that we are. Looks like it's clearing now. At this stage in the proceedings, we weren't absolutely sure that we were going to leave, but we had to put ourselves in Dale right near the entrance to Milford Haven so we could decide to go later on that night if we thought the weather window would allow it. The forecast, I would say, is a little bit marginal. We're not in the business of taking chances, but if we don't go tonight, the wind will turn on our nose before we get to Land's End. And if we do go tonight, we could have a fairly stiff northerly. There's an 8 further offshore, and as long as that stays offshore, then that'll be fine. We could have 6s and 7s, and hopefully that's all we'll have. This is our last sort of offshore passage of the season, so we're a little bit pensive, and we've been holed up here in Milford Haven, as lovely as it is here, waiting to get around Land's End. This is our opportunity, the first in 3 weeks, and I think if we don't take this one, there's nothing in the forecast for another 10 days. So very rarely do the stars align perfectly. We have to accept what we have been gifted. We have 2 reefs in the main. We are planning on being pretty much dead downwind and letting Altor take care of us, as she does so well. It's 10 PM. We set off at 7 o'clock. We had wind on the nose and we motor sailed for quite a while, and it was horrible. Horrible, confused, big seas. Not pleasant at all. The seas are all over the place, to be honest. Asher's feeling pretty unwell, and I'm not feeling very well either. But we've turned the engine off because the wind has gone from on the nose to up the bum, and we have 21 to 28 knots. It's much better now, but there are still some pretty big waves that come through. We've just gone through a few cargo ships, and forecast is for anything from this up to 30 plus knots, which I hope we don't get. At the moment it's not bad, and we're doing 6.5 to 7.5 knots. Getting bigger gusts now. That one was 36 knots. We're doing well. The boat rounds up a little bit if we catch the swell awkwardly. The autopilot then steers all the way downwind again. I'm not thinking about hand steering yet, but we may if it keeps up. Raining hard too now. 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm pleased to say that the wind has started to ease a little. We are now got 25 knots blowing, and we're not often going above 28 knots, which is a nice little relief. The sea state is a bit better. We're about 3 hours away from the daylight. I'm actually pleased that it's going to calm down before daylight, because even though it feels like a more of a pensive time in the dark, I'm quite pleased we couldn't see the waves, because in the moonlight I could see the silhouettes and they were big and probably a bit scary by day, so the dark has hidden them from view. That was a long, dark night. Very, very happy to see the light appearing on the horizon. I'm also very happy to see Asher appear in the cockpit, which signals time for me to go to bed. Thank you, Asher. You're welcome. This life is a wonderful life, but there are times when we wonder what the hell we are doing, and last night was one such night.
That was a pretty wild night with maximum gust of 40.9 knots. But now the wind dropped and we are having a spectacular sunrise. And the wind is about 20 knots, so that's fine.
Nice to get the jib out as we go past Land's End and start heading east. Been waiting a long time to get around that corner, and here we are. Pretty feisty trip down from Wales. I guess it was going to happen. We had to take that window, and I'm pleased we did. I questioned myself at the time, but 25 hours later we are coming into this lovely little anchorage in Falmouth, right in the town. It's a cracking spot here. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, Ashley.
Cheers, honey.
Ah, tastes good in Falmouth.
It does.
Thank you so much for watching our adventure now. Altor out.
Should you have some feed for them? Like breadcrumbs or...
Oh yes, I'm sure every fish out there goes, do you know what, I must go down to Baker's today and get some breadcrumbs.
A little knob for my little knob. There you go.
Thank you.